ISTPs are the best type. So there's a guy that was going on a fishing trip. The pilot like passes out, and some guy in the back who doesn't know how to fly fucking jumps in the front, figures out how to fly, lands the fucking plane, saves the day. Okay. I wonder what type that could be. Who could that be?
I would have guessed an ISTP.
Ta-da! It's either that or Batman. So this guy. So I watched the interviews of him. So here's my mom, Effie over here. Is that her name? Savannah, whatever.
Bless.
So she's lead Effie.
Yep.
Whatever the fuck type she is.
Yep.
She's lead Effie. Definitely know that
ESFJ.
one. Really nice lady. Really nice lady.
Love her.
So she's interviewing ISTP guy. As far as I can figure, yes, he's an ISTP. Yes, and I think he's an audio blast last. So also very similar to my brother, kind of the same ridiculous look on his face. But how does your brain go up in times of stress when everyone else's brain, including mine, is going down?
Yeah. So we see a lot of the Navy SEALs this type.
Yeah.
Like this type or double feminine. We see a lot of Navy SEALs that are just... And it's funny, the way that people talk about Navy SEALs is how I would describe the definition of an ISTP.
Right.
Where they're like, I don't know what it is, but they're just very like focused, dedicated, know how to do what they're doing, confident in how they're doing what they're doing, able to deal with the chaos of whatever random thing is thrown at them.
The emotions come later.
That's what's interesting. You'll see these paramedics like be able to manage the level psychotic, oh my gods, and then you'll hear stories from them. We've heard personal stories from them that later on they will just become a ball of tears, like just crying uncontrollably later.
Great. That's what weekends are for.
In the most terrifying moment of his life, Darren Harrison proved calm and collected.
I've got a serious situation here. My pilot has gone incoherent.
The 39-year-old, whose career focuses on flooring sales, was traveling home from a fishing trip in the Bahamas on board a single-engine Cessna 208.
Delta Force.
Only two others were on board, the pilot and the pilot's friend.
My nightmare's always been when I go on flights like this. What happens if something health-wise happens to the pilot? What's going to happen?
You've thought about that before?
Oh, I've thought about it many times.
Initially, Darren said everything seemed to be normal.
And you didn't seem to be a nervous flyer. You took a shot at the cockpit with your feet up and back.
Yep, I was just back there relaxing.
But shortly after taking that photo, he heard from the pilot, and everything changed.
I saw he kind of did a move like this and said, guys, I got to tell you, I don't feel good. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, I got a headache, and I'm fuzzy, and I just don't feel right. And I said, what do we need to do? And at that point, he didn't respond at all. He was already done.
What was the position of his body in that moment?
He was still leaned back.
So he never slumped forward?
Correct. Never slumped forward at all. At that point, he wasn't responding to us yelling at him. So I moved to the front, and by the time I had moved forward to the front of the airplane, I realized that we had now gone into a dive at a very fast rate. All I saw when I came up to the front was water out the right window, and I knew it was coming quick.
ST report, huh?
Yeah, right.
God damn. What do we need to do? That'd be the last thing that I would say as an observer. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Why is it happening?
Yes.
I need to figure out more information with my one observer that's broken. But the decider is like, what are we going to do?
The plane is in a nosedive, essentially.
Correct. Yes. And at that point, I knew if I didn't react, that we would die. And so I reached over his body because he's at this point unresponsive. I kind of put my arm over to where my elbow was sitting here, and I grabbed the controls of the airplane and slowly started to pull back on the stick.
Yeah,
and
but how
turn.
are you feeling?
How did you know how to do that?
Just common sense, I guess, being on airplanes, because I knew if I went up and yanked, that the airplane would stall. And I also knew at the rate we were probably going way too fast, and it would rip the wings off the airplane.
Okay, so what's fascinating, so listen to how she says, how did you know how to do that?
Really good catch.
Yeah, so like Savannah would probably be able to do it if she wasn't fucking scared and didn't believe in herself.
Right.
She has the function of thinking. She absolutely has the capability, the ability. It has nothing to do with her actual ability.
Plus people on the ground.
But it's the fear that I'm going to do it wrong and I don't know how to do it. Therefore, I'm going to just sit here and emotionally panic.
Right.
But it's not because she couldn't do it.
All my GPSs have gone out. I have no idea where I am. And then it was, well, what do you see? I see the state of Florida and I see a small airport. And they said, can you drop to 5,000 and maintain? And I said, I can try. I can work on it.
Work on it.
I'm still trying to figure this thing out.
You didn't have any shoes on?
Nope, I was barefoot.
Yeah, we know.
My shoes were in the back.
Did it ever cross your mind that you wouldn't try? Or was it just like, I can't do this?
No.
Yeah.
When I was flying and saw the state of Florida, at that second, I knew I'm going to land there. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to have to land this airplane because there's no other option.
There's no other option. And she's like, don't you just feel like you want to freak out? Like you know, you see
Yeah.
like there's two different Karens on the TikToks, you know?
Yeah.
You have the TE Karen that's like, you know, telling people more stuff. You have
The TE Karen and the FE Karen are very interesting.
Yeah, the FE Karen is the one that goes around the front of the car and then lays down and screams that you're hitting me, and you're like, okay, is that real? Is that staged? Like, no, like what the FEs are doing is like, I'm so afraid of the thing or like the done doing things, or you have a dog on a leash or not on a leash, or your car's parked weird.
Yeah.
That I'll just scream, and I'll scream for the tribe to come save me with the thing. Everyone's like, there's no thing problem here, you fucking nut.
Right.
And so Savannah is like leaking a little bit of that. You wouldn't know that unless you knew the code of like Savannah saying, wouldn't you just shit panic and like not even be able to touch the steering wheel?
And not do it. And he's just like, no. And like, there's nothing magical about one or the other. Because if
They're the best type.
Debatable. I know, right? This is the best time just to piss off everybody that gets freaked out about that.
Just to get the ISTP's heads bigger. I'm actually making their life worse by telling them they're awesome.
You still are the best.
And he kept telling me the whole time, the runway's going to keep getting bigger as you get closer to it. Just keep focused on that and just keep descending. And I remember getting to around 200 feet, and he said, hey, you're going to need to slow down some more. You're still coming in pretty fast. And at that point, I told the other guy, I said, hey, take the throttle and dump it on the floor. Just dump it on the floor as far as it'll go.
Moments later, Darren touched down on the runway.
So, and then you slammed on those brakes with your bare feet.
I slowly feathered the brakes as I'm going down the runway.
ST.
And surprisingly, I felt so comfortable with it. I radioed to the guy and I said, hey, I'm feeling pretty confident in the brakes and everything. Do you guys want me to turn off the runway so I can clear this thing out?
You offered to park.
Yeah.
And when did you exhale?
I said thank you for everything. I threw the headset on the dash and said the biggest prayer I've ever said in my life.
And then I went in the back and gave the guy CPR because I'm a paramedic. Flight line paramedic, wartime paramedic.
Okay, so notice as it's going on, he's figuring it out.
Right, and this last clip is going to be him talking about where he literally decided, I'm not going to die today. Like, just the intensity of, how much power do you have over your life? Like, I'll see you struggle with this, I'll struggle with this. You're like, oh, today I'm going to be a victim. Today's going to be really hard. Yeah. I'm just the smallest force in my life. And literally, I've had analogies of my mind if I see with you struggling with something or myself or other people where it feels like a lot of people that I see, the way I'm starting to see this more and more, is that literally people are in an airplane of their life. Just a coincidence that it happens to be an airplane story because I've already been seeing this. They're in the airplane of their life and they're the pilot and they're in the back in the bathroom crying and drinking going, today's going to be a hard day. And I'm like, no shit, asshole. You're the fucking pilot. Get out here. Start telling people what to do. Yeah. And they're like, I'm just along for the ride into a dive. And it's just like that feeling of like, I'm powerless in my life. I'm a victim. I don't have like, no, you're the fucking pilot.
Right.
And this guy literally, like in a Sensor story, is like, I'm going to take control of this. I'm not going to be a fucking victim in the back. I don't even know how to fly. Let me figure that out. Because he's like, literally from the front end, I know this is like TIIP, like deciding, no, I got a daughter on the way. I'm not dying today.
Right.
Wasn't even thinking about that. Now, like you said earlier, I guarantee you, and they probably won't follow up on this, like 6 months from now, he'll be at the bar with his buddies and like all the emotions will hit him all of a sudden.
That's when all the emotions set in.
Can you share what your prayer was?
It was a thankful prayer for the safety and everything that had happened. But the last part of the prayer and the strongest part was for the guy in the back. Because I knew it was not a good situation. Yeah.
Think about your little girl?
I did. Oh yeah. It's one of the first things that went through my mind. As I was climbing to the front and that plane was in a dive, I was just looking going, I can't die today. Brittany's pregnant, I got a baby on the way. Not today. Today's not my day.